Hello and welcome back to our wonderful blue stage, where we are about to start with the next session in just a minute. A topic which is, I have to be honest, of particular importance for me. Anybody in the audience who has kids? Do you have kids? Kids? No kids? No kids? You have kids at home. So in my case, my middle one has his bicycle test today at school. So he's really nervous regarding that. The purpose, do you know a bicycle test? Do you know what it is? You don't have it in your country, maybe? So that might be another topic to talk about in the next session. But, well, the purpose is quite easy, to be safe on the road. That's what it's all about. And I was really proud in my younger days when I got the certificate that I fulfilled the needs for the bicycle test. And, well, that brings us to the topic of the next panel, which is urban road safety in general. And I can tell you something. The sun is shining outside, but what will be shining inside here in Hall A3 is the moderator of the next session. And I'm so much looking forward to welcome Hannah Baumgarten again. Hi, Hannah. Welcome back. And it's so good to see you. You can give a big hand.
Hi, guys. Good to see some of you. Actually, I have a bike license, so I got it maybe with 11, 9. I don't know how old you are. I don't have kids, but I think the drive license was really, really cool. So good luck for your son. Hi, guys. I hope everybody is doing well, and you already had good 1-2 days here at IAA. We will look today at a really important topic about urban road safety. It's not only a topic we look at the infrastructure or maybe like the regulations, but as well it's a behavior of all of us on the road to make it really safe to everyone on the road to come from A to B. And we bring today a really like technology example between a tech company and BMW, but as well we will look at regulations and other topics in this regard. I will just host it. I have amazing speakers with me, and we actually thought everybody will just bring a small impulse to share like their view on urban road safety. And I don't want to hold it back longer, and starting with introducing our first speaker. It's Ulrich Silenio, if I say your last name right. If not, just say it again. He's head of transportation police at ADSC EV, and good to have you. Please give him a hand. And then I'm curious what you can present. Or stand. How you feel better?
Also, okay. I start.
Yeah, you can start with your presentation if the team wants to show it. I just have a chill next to you.
So hello everybody. My name is Ulrich Chiellino. It's an Italian name, and the pronouncing is like Chianti. I always say it in this moment, so you can better you can feel it better. I'm a member of the ADAC and head of policy inside this company, and I'm also a psychologist, and that's one more reason why I talk to you in the field of road safety today here in the hall. My title of the presentation is missing, but I tell you, how can we learn risk competence without damage, or better, how can we learn risk competence safely? Please listen the next round about 5 minutes, and I will promise you get some information you never seen before, because I have a little experience and experiment inside this presentation. You can do it on the chair together, and you get more experience for risk competence. So let's us start together. First of all, it is important to know that human behavior is influenced by many different factors. And basically, there is an interaction between expectations, experience, and the situational events. The situational perception of traffic depends on the 3 big E's we called education, engineering, and enforcement. You can see it on the chart. That means road users are not equal. They all have different experiences and skills, so they can't be equal. And at the end, for the road safety, it is important to be able to make the right decision in the next racing situation. Thus, the question is, how can we get more risk competence? Maybe by not only trying to avoid a penalty, but rewarding safe and compliant behavior. Assuming each of us had to pay a deposit of 500 euros, maybe per year, and only got the money back if, or only got the money back with a small surcharge if we drove compliant in this time period. I'm convinced we would think about road safety differently. But most important for road safety is to understand that nobody can rule all risks. I can explain this 100 times. I think it will have no effect. You don't believe me because you are not, or because you think you are an above average driver. And that's the problem. So let's look at the presentation now. It's a little experiment. I introduce at the first slide. Please focus on the cross in the center and don't move your eyes. That's important. Don't move your eyes. Focus the cross in the center. Be patient and wait a little bit. You can do it here. You can do it at home. It's no problem. I think you can make some experience. It's amazing, it's crazy. The points turned green and left the screen. And every time you switch your focus, the points are still there. And if you look to the cross, they're all lost, they're gone. And that is what I tell you, risk competence. Remember this next time you want to take a risk, and I hope maybe you can, I hope you maybe will more careful then, because you look but you don't see. That's the key message. And now comes the hard part. How can I transport this knowledge sustainable? All communication channels must be used for this purpose, and different road users must be treated differently. The More Respect campaign by the Federal Ministry of Transport is leading the way. Changing perspectives and reflecting on one's own behavior are the key messages. So I sum up a small summary. We need more risk competence, therefore we need experience to know our own limits. We have to talk about how we can reward positive behavior, and we have to understand that we are in fact not equal road users because we all have different skills. That's it. Keep on going together for more road safety. Thank you.
Who saw the green dot?
Achso.
Who didn't see the green dot? Was it red, maybe? Colorblind? No? Okay, great. Thank you so much. It was really, really cool. Would you like to have a seat on the second chair?
Okay.
And you said not everybody is eagle as well, not only the devices, like the things we're driving around. We have cars, we have bikes. And I'm really happy to have Bernadette with us. She's chairwoman at ADFC, who are taking care. You will tell it, I think, much better. And I think it's kind of nice as well that you are like supporting the second mayor here in Bavaria and Munich as well. So I would say the stage is yours. Sit down, stand where you want, and tell us a little bit more about your perspective about urban road safety.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning from my side. I am happy that I can bring in the cyclist point of view, and I have brought a little presentation also. The bike is more than 200 years old, but not old-fashioned. Not only cars, but also bicycles have been developed in the recent years. Electrical support for pedelecs and e-bikes makes cycling comfortable even for less sporty and older people, and it still keeps them fit because of activity while moving. On the top you can see Senta. Senta died a few weeks ago in the age of 102 years. Until April of this year, she was cycling with a tricycle almost every day. Special bikes, such as Santa's tricycle, wheelchair bikes or hand bikes, make people with restrictions mobile, even those who cannot walk or only walk with pain. Sometimes those people cannot even drive a car, but with bikes like these, they can get right to door or even inside buildings or trains. And last not least, a large number of different cargo bikes makes transport easier even in very narrow inner cities. While the switch of the e-drives in cars had to be subsidized in the last years, there is a real boom in e-bikes without nearly any subsidies. In the last 10 years, the number of e-bikes has increased from 1 to over 10 million in Germany. No wonder that the modal share of all kinds of bikes has increased too, especially in cities. In Munich, for example, we are approaching a bike share of 25% until 2025. Just to compare, in 2017, the bike share was around 18%. The problem is, the bicycle infrastructure has not grown with it. And it is far too narrow in the cities, especially for the different speeds of all these kinds of bikes, plus trailers and e-scooters. On top, cycle lanes are blocked with parked cars nearly everywhere, and their maintenance is often poor too. In general, we see more and more motorized vehicles, and above, they became heavier and larger, and therefore more dangerous for everybody who does not have at least a ton of steel around himself. Another problem is poor vision because of all these huge vehicles everywhere around. Every fifth accident is meanwhile related to poor vision. Outside the city, cycling infrastructure is mostly absent. In Bavaria, less than 50% of the local roads have a cycle path. So you have to cycle on the pavement for cars, where you will be overtaken narrowly and at high speed. And it will be difficult to see you in the dark. Or you have to cycle on dirt roads, where the risk to fall is very high. As a result, it is not surprising that, contrary to the general trend in accident statistics, there are more and more cyclists involved in accidents. Alone here in Bavaria, more than 19,000 people were injured and 83 were even killed while cycling last year, only in 1 year. And that's a very bad record that demands an urgent need for action. It is obviously not fair if those who travel in a climate-friendly manner have to risk their life on our roads. This matrix here was shown yesterday at the Mobility Congress of the city of Munich. It's an evaluation of all accidents in Munich in the last 12 years. Also here it becomes very clear, you see it in the tops above, in the spots above, by the far greatest dangers to cyclists and to pedestrians comes from cars, even more than from trucks. In view of these facts, it seems to be clear that cycling infrastructure must be considered in all plannings. Cycle paths must not constantly end up into conflict zones and should be protected. And intersections, this is very important, must be safe, like in the Netherlands. Everybody must be able to see everyone clearly at an intersection. And cyclists and vehicles turning right must not be given the green signal at the same times. And trucks have to be built in such a way that they have no more blind spots. They must be equipped with warning systems and have deep windows and also automatic brakes assistance. Or at least, the drivers must be 2 people on the road. And here I'm already at the end. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. And these numbers were crazy with like people and bikes and accidents with cars. Thank you so much. Feel free to have a seat or do the same move like going down from stage. Who arrived today with a bicycle? And with a car? With 2 cars, a bicycle and a car? Amazing. This is the cross use of mobility. Nice. So now we looked at, okay, what can we change actually in our behavior? We looked at a little bit less stronger mobility device like the car. And now I would like maybe to look at the technology view to see actually how do we figure out where we have to change something in our infrastructure. And Geoff, you actually had an amazing project, or you're doing an amazing project with BMW. You're road safety responsible at Essen, and as well you will show us some, I think, results from the last months you worked together.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks a lot, Hannah. Happy to join you on stage today to bring this technology side to the discussion. To start the discussion today, I wanted to take a real concrete example of what can be done on the road today to improve road safety for all users. And indeed, that's a topic that's impacting all of us. We are all pedestrians or cyclists or car drivers, and we are talking about lives here. So that's very important. The example we've chosen is one of our products that we call Road Trace. It's identifying high-risk area on the road network before crashes occur using data coming from existing vehicles. And for this presentation today, we've worked together with BMW to deliver first a case study in Munich. So we focused on the urban area in Munich. And what we've done is to identify harsh braking events, and especially clusters of harsh braking events. It's been proven by various researchers in the US, in Europe, that harsh braking clusters are a lead indicator to potential crashes, so real accidents. And what we've done is collecting data over several months, and we managed to identify more than 150,000 of these events just in Munich over 3 months. So these events, we then look at accumulation, so these clusters, location where we see a lot of these strong braking events. And we identified more than 500 of these harsh braking clusters in Munich area. What can we do with that? Then actually we can filter them, and we can filter them based on proximity or density of vulnerable road users close to these clusters of harsh braking. So we're looking at precise position of pedestrian crossing, bicycle lanes, bus stops, all type of location where you see a high density of vulnerable road users. And just by looking at pedestrian and bicycles, we discovered that more than a third of these harsh braking clusters are close to this location where you see high density of vulnerable road users. So that's potential interaction issues between different modalities, transport modalities. So that's one example of a cluster. What you see on the picture there, the pink dots are real crashes that occurred in the past years involving bicycles. The blue dots were involving pedestrians. So unfortunately, in 80% of the locations that we've identified, there had been accidents already in the past. But still, in those locations, with the huge amount of data that we collect, we can then better understand the context around all these events. So we can look at weather conditions, lighting conditions, see if we have more issues during the night, the day, mainly at rush hours, but also look at the speed profile of the vehicle, or look if the vehicle was trying to turn left, right, and so on. So lots of insight we can deliver to the city, to the authorities, to help them identify then the proper route cause and proper countermeasure action as well. And the power of the tool is that in parallel to that, we also identify new locations where we've not seen accidents yet, or no accident reported yet. So there we can act proactively, we can prevent accidents and really save lives. So for me at least, I believe that's the most important, to move towards prevention and proactive. So that's one of the examples of this new location we've identified. By monitoring continuously the network, we can see, looking at the graph on the right, that we've seen in the past weeks more and more events at this location. So that's something that needs investigating, and we can now go on site, look at all the contextual data as well. That's probably something that we can fix now before real accident occurs. So that's concrete example, this technology exists. That's the type of insight we can deliver already. And with BMW data, for example, all new vehicles since 2015 can deliver the data we need to provide this type of insight. So that's now available, and let's discuss how we could use it, how this could help improve road safety.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With this, we have 25 minutes to really deep dive in discussion and really to see what are the challenges. However, we have a fourth speaker who I didn't have a chance to introduce as well. It's Dr. Thomas Becker, Head of Sustainability and Mobility at BMW. So everything. Yeah. Join us on stage. I would like to ask my two other panelists to sit down. I think I have to take the last seat here. Feel free to grab the seat you feel most confident. And I think we got already good input. So a lot of my questions I can just remove. But I would like to start actually, or to kick it off with what is actually right now the biggest challenge in the whole urban road safety? And you didn't have a chance to speak yet, so you would like to kick it off.
Yeah, let me put a little bit into perspective what we have just been hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, road safety, with a view to what is the contribution of the car industry for a long time, was about protecting people in the car. Mm-hmm. So it was about hardware being put into vehicles in order to reduce the impact of an accident that actually happens on people. We have since then seen many developments which were about active safety in the sense of mitigating the impact of an accident that is actually happening. Yeah. So the entire technical development around the design of vehicle front ends, of reducing the impact of passenger collisions, etc., was, so to speak, the next wave of the debate. What we have been seeing over the last years was, I think, a significant positive contribution by avoiding accidents to happen via, for example, lane departure warning. The emergency brake assistance that is now part of very many vehicles, even such things which may look a little bit banal, like the rear view camera, which also contributes to early detect possible incidents of collision. But this is still about what is happening on the road in a given moment. Yeah. And I think the approach that we have been taking with the colleagues from ISIN is to be better able to predict where things can be more dangerous than you would have to expect normally. As BMW, we have also been working over the last 2 years with the city of Rotterdam on, for example, seeing what are the potentials of identifying points in a city which are very risk-prone, or where a more close attention would make sense, like schools, for example. So there's a static dimension to that where you could say, okay, let's think about how can we raise drivers' attention for places where we know that more close attention is needed at a certain point in time. But what we have been seeing here is to use actually the fleet that is out there as a detector for potential risks that can be avoided, and bringing these things together in order to better prepare the car, prepare the driver for potentially dangerous situations involving more vulnerable users of the urban space is an important field of research and also of discussion between car makers, between the city governments, and other stakeholders. So we are at the beginning of a next phase of the evolution of road safety, if you like.
I like the way not to say only I make the car better to save the people in the car, but as well to make it that as well the people are out of the car. I think I see it like I work for an American company. There the cars get but sometimes bigger and bigger to protect the kids in the car. But of course outside it will be like less protection. So I think it's a good move to as well use your car to build something like more safe on the road. Yeah. Especially on the data part, I think there could be big challenges as well, right?
Yeah, and I agree, the way we move the mobility is changing also, so we cannot rely on historical data anymore to predict what could be the issues. And for me, the biggest challenge, I think, is in sharing the street, especially in Europe, where most of the cities were built when there were only pedestrian and a few horses maybe. Then we've seen cars coming and trucks and public transport. And now we see e-scooters, e-bikes, the nice examples that we've seen from Bernadette with many type of mobility, all traveling at different speed. So it's real challenge. So I see two things. First, adapt the infrastructure. And we see that this change is happening now when you go to the big cities like Munich, Paris, Brussels, and so on. Still, we can be quicker, but there are many small cities also that don't have the resources, the skills to really understand how people are moving and improve this journey. So we can help them with different tools, and that's where I believe data coming really from the field can support them. So that's one big aspect, I think, on the infrastructure side. And then also for the user, we have to help them find the best way to move in and around the city as well. So the user acceptance is really key. We cannot get rid of all the cars suddenly and ask people to just go by bike. We need to help them, support them in finding the best way, the safest, smoothest, most enjoyable way to travel also in and out of the city. So multimodality there will be key, and help the users to find the right mode of transport. Yeah.
I think there are a lot of solutions here as well at IAA Mobility, where you maybe don't only have this one car or one bicycle, but you move around with different like startups where you're renting or sharing and topics like this. So I think this can be highly curious. You mentioned behavior. I think you will be part of this, but what you're seeing right now is a big challenge.
A very important part. A short answer is mobility is a holistic thing, of course, and so we need less confrontation and more integration for all road users, and so we look for solutions. We can change the circumstances that there's a better way to go on the road, and so we all together work for an improvement, for development, and I think that's a key point.
Like this open-mindedness to say not everybody's doing their own thing, because at the end we're sharing our road. So I think it's a perfect combination we have here. Bernadette.
Yeah, to my mind it is clear to identify the black spots or the hot spots is only the one side. The other side is to improve the infrastructure then and to make it more secure. And I guess the biggest challenge for doing this is to gain the space, because we have not enough space for everybody to have comfort, and sometimes we have to take away parking spaces or something like that.
Because you're mentioning it right now, what is your viewpoint? Will be the city of the future have cars, or will they park outside?
To my mind, not everybody would own an own car and have his own car. Maybe we have sharing cars or vehicles driving around. You can hop on, hop off. But I think the own car, that's not the future, because we don't have the space for that.
And we talked a little bit about as well Amsterdam, and I think Rotterdam got mentioned. What can we learn from other cities? Like right now we're in Munich, so what can Munich maybe learn from Rotterdam, Amsterdam, or other places? Whoever feels like sharing something on this.
Well, I mean, what I think is that indeed the challenge that lies ahead of us is really making the best use of the technology options that we have. Because the first examples I've been mentioning, which were all about what kind of stuff to put into cars, new cars, by the way, not the existing ones. It all worked the same. There was somebody who had an innovation, a car maker, a supplier. One could see that it actually works and delivers a contribution to safety. And then the European regulator, for example, said, now everybody has to do that. And with that, the job was done. You didn't need anybody else to bring about the improvement that comes from, for example, airbags or emergency brake assistance. The things that we are talking about here are about the digital competency of city administrations and infrastructure providers. And I think this is the most important bottleneck. And if you look at many of the discussions that we are having with our colleagues in China, where the idea of a city brain is actually about managing transport differently with a smart, high-performing infrastructure that can use in-vehicle data and communicate back to the vehicle is a totally different paradigm. So the situation which we have in Europe, where quite some city governments still rely on paint being put on concrete and pieces of metal being put to the road sign as the only management device, I think is not state of the art. And what is namely encouraging about the way people approach things in Rotterdam, for example, is that they are extremely keen to use the possibilities of digital communication between vehicles, between the vehicle and its user, between the user and, for example, providers of other means of transport, to enable a more efficient experience that can include the car for the daily commute into the city, but maybe involve other means of transport for the last 500 or 600 meters or 1,000 meters that people are traveling within a historic city center, for example.
Yeah.
And bringing this different way of managing travel about is something that you cannot do in isolation from the car, but you also can't do it with the toolbox of the last century of traffic management.
I think it's a really interesting point as well to say who's responsible at the end. You know, like of course there are like private companies who are doing active yet now as well. There have to be a business model somehow behind. There of course are like cities who are doing the infrastructure. There are like people just giving away their parking spot and play, I don't know, make a small playground there. And I think that's a really interesting fun fact. In Germany, I think there are only 2 cities with the same traffic light system. So cars actually have to learn over 1,000 different languages to communicate with traffic lights. In other countries like America, every traffic light has the same like coding behind and cars can talk. Ulrich, a little bit it's now, or both of you actually. This is a company, BMW, have to make money at the end. Have to have a business model. What is the role now from the politicians? What is the role of cities? What is the role of our, like, I think 2 days ago we had a lot of visitors here from really high positions. What are they doing? What are their responsibilities? Maybe you can look at this.
Yes, I can. Well, it's okay to ask this question, but I think the responsibility for road safety, you mentioned it before, we all together are responsible for road safety, and the politics, even in cities, can't solve all problems because there is not enough space, or there are other barriers that you can do the best solution. And the best solution is in your mind, because I think we all agree that it is not good to drink and drive. So nobody, I hope, do or think it's okay. But maybe some of you think, okay, mobile phone and driving, sometimes it's okay. And this also double the risk for accidents. And this is the risk competence I mentioned before. We need more, and we need more to understand that we are responsible for road safety, and not the other one, or seas, or no. Yeah.
But now you will figure out there's this point we have to do something. We have to change the infrastructure. Who is paying at the end that the infrastructure get changed? I don't know, Bernadette, maybe you have a viewpoint on this.
Yeah, it has to be paid by the state, that's sure. And I agree perfectly on what you said, ADFC and ADAC.
The reason you sit next to each other?
So we found a spot here. Yeah, I think that's the reason. What we see mostly in politics is if a mayor, the people on the top of a city, can change or switch the perspectives. If a mayor cycles himself, he decides another way. So We see that in Copenhagen, for example, there are many parties, but all parties agree that they want to improve the cycling infrastructure, and so it comes out in the end.
And what is happening like on the bike side? Like what is right now? Are we getting more biking lanes now, or will be more awareness in this direction? I know, like I live in Stuttgart, and the highest investment for bicycling roads is in Stuttgart, out of the reason we don't really have bicycling roads. So what is happening here in Munich or in Germany?
Yeah, the problem is that it takes very long, because first you have to gain the space, then you have to plan and all that. We did a referendum this year and last year, the ADFC, together with other people, and now we have a cycling law here in Bavaria, and we hope then this will make it quicker. So that's what we did in the last month.
This sounds great. Looking a little on the data side, now you're both collaborating. Question is, do you need like other OEMs? Do you need like some mere mobility provider? Can we do it with bikes? Can we do it with people? So how can you get a bigger database now?
I think it's not only about cars and OEMs. The collaboration is key between public authorities, between private companies as well. And yeah, so I think that's in that direction that the innovation should look as well. And how do we finance the change? It's a big challenge as well. So the responsibility at the end is in our hands, I agree. And we all have to work together and collaborate on the topic. So there are different activities around that. Between car manufacturers, indeed, big tier 1 suppliers as well. A lot is pushed by politics, but I believe we should break a bit the silos as well and work together with the cities, together with the private companies. But there is I don't think there is one solution that fits all the cities. Even just looking at Europe, there are massive differences from one region to the other. So we can learn from the other regions, but each situation is different. Political situation, but also just geography and the way people are moving. So we've seen some trials in cities that work perfectly fine, but did not work in other cities as well. So it's always, you need to customize it, and that's why you cannot try to develop the perfect solution and then deploy it all around Europe. So e-scooters, good example. Now they are banned in Paris, and in other cities they are pushing for more. So yeah, it's really different cases, and every time we have to sit together, see with all the different providers, solution providers, mobility providers, but also with the authorities to find the best solution possible.
I like the part to really say, like, to collaborate with different stakeholders, from like private companies, from politicians, from companies like ADAC and Co. I think this is really a key message we have to take out from this talk. Do you have any other example out of what we already talked about from a collaboration to make our road more safe? Do you have any other example in mind? A not prepared question, like the other ones as well.
Well, maybe there is an example that also comes from Rotterdam, which is not about safety, but which shows what is feasible. That's the so-called e-drive zone, where we have been programming our hybrid cars to automatically go into the electric mode once they enter the low emission zones in European cities. So this is one example where with simple technology like geofencing, you can already do a lot. And I think that if you would have city administrations and transport authorities who have real-life data about when is the likelihood of accidents increasing at which place. And this may depend on the time of the day. This changes the location. And you would have the ability to feed that into the navigation systems of cars in a way that these can properly respond and advise the driver where to be more careful. I think there is really room for improvement. But it all depends on the technical competency of the players involved. Yep. And this is where I think investment into digital abilities in transport authorities and municipal management would be highly relevant. Another thing which is very clear is that most of the road users carry around with them a smart device which is permanently communicating. So the question, how could I use the signature of smartphones which can easily be recognized if somebody is traveling on a scooter or a bike or is walking by foot, and where they are in relation to cars. There is much more information out there that is still underutilized.
I think this is a really good key to really invest in digital solutions, to have it centralized and as well then to develop. Okay, we have 3 more minutes. Let's wrap it up. You have now an amazing audience here. You have some people behind the camera, will be recorded. If we can change something short-term tomorrow, what would you give the people here as a reply? If you cannot think about something short-term, you can, of course, think about something long-term. But we want to go in action, right? We don't want to wait. So maybe starting on my left.
We would try to bring to the road exactly what Geoffrey has been presenting. A permanent evaluation of neuralgic points in cities with a view to road safety.
What then cities can use to really updating the infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I believe we have the tools now, we have the data as well, many sources of data, so that's not an issue anymore. So I think what we should do now is really support the authorities and cities with those tools and make concrete actions now.
Ulrich.
Yeah, remember the beginning of the presentation, the experiment. Even if you look, you can't see everything, so risk competence, please be careful if you're on the road.
Bernadette?
As we have seen, it's most important that we have more collaboration and to share the knowledge. So I think the most important thing would be to talk, and talk again, because it helps nobody if we just say, we are right and you are wrong, and this is also the reason why I came here. So many activists say, no, don't go there. It's senseless, but to my mind, it's very important to keep on the discussions and to think together on solutions.
I think you ended up this panel perfectly. Please, everyone, give this amazing panelist a warm applause, warm hand, if you can say it this way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think every one of you will be around. I think you need to run. Everybody else will be around. So if you have any questions, you wanted to chat them, just grab them after we come back again from the stage. It was great to have you. Thank you for being so interactive. And I think we can wrap up our panel, right? Okay, cool. I think we have to go in this direction. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.